Alrighty, yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DGA Player, back with another reaction video. Today, we finna react to these WWE heel turns were pretty awful. This should be an interesting one. Without further ado, let's get right into it.
Not too long ago, we looked at bad WCW heel turns, but this time we're going to look at bad WWE heel turns. I wanted to get some input from you guys on this because there's turns I thought were okay while the rest of the internet didn't like them. Some I thought were horrible while everyone else thought they were brilliant. So I wanted to get the opinion of others for this video and try to see things from a different point of view. There's going to be tons left out just because there's been so many, plus I blubber on way too much, and I like to keep my videos at a somewhat decent runtime. So you know what to do, use the comments to add more. This one was brought up frequently, and after covering this heel turn on Reliving the War, I fully agree with what everyone's saying. D-Generation X was in a weird place after Triple H joined the corporation at WrestleMania 15. All that ended up being left of DX was Road Dogg and X-Pac after Billy Gunn in China had also left the group, and after a tag team match where the rights to the DX name and merchandise money was up for grabs, Pac and Road Dogg, for a while, became the only two wrestlers who were allowed to officially call themselves D-Generation X. X-Pac and Road Dogg were still popular, but X-Pac's popularity rose even further when he started tagging up with the Big Red Machine, Kane. Kane had been abandoned by Paul Bearer, he was abandoned by The Undertaker, he tried to find family within the corporation, but this turned out to be a bad move. Kane had no one, and how the WWF made the Big Red Machine into a monster that you felt sympathy for was quite an accomplishment when you think about it. X-Pac had Kane's back though, and a friendship began between these two that fans really got into, mainly due to their interesting dynamic. You had the Big Red Machine who was silent but dangerous, and you had the smaller X-Pac who was a bit more boisterous and loud. Soon enough, the pair had some issues. X-Pac wanted to prove to everyone, including Kane, that he wasn't the weak link in the team, and he wanted to prove he didn't need Kane watching his back. Kane would still come to Pac's rescue, even when Waltman flat out told him not to show up, and eventually, X-Pac decided to split away from Kane just so he could try to hang out with the big boys all on his own. The two were still friendly, but X-Pac felt the relationship was holding him back. The decision was then made to bring the full DX army back to TV because Triple H needed backup. X-Pac turned on Kane, and a bit later on, so did Kane's love interest, Tori. Tori and X-Pac had a relationship behind Kane's back, and in the long run, the turn did X-Pac absolutely no favours. In the short term, yeah, but long term, no. Pac and Kane had matches on pay-per-view, but none of them felt like a big payoff. Waltman then floated around in DX obscurity, while it felt like his role in the faction was even lesser than before. I mean, he became no more than a small-time crony within the McMahon-Hemsley faction, and chants of X-Pac sucks would follow him forever, even though he was still one of the company's best performers at that time. X-Pac was way more effective as a babyface during this time period. The heel turn did nothing for him, and he'd remain a heel for the rest of his career with his questionable X Factor faction going nowhere and another stint in the NWO leading to Pac being another guy who made up the numbers.
Self-high five. This was terrible.
At one point in time, DDP was the quintessential company babyface. He had that natural progression from heel to babyface in WCW that you can't manufacture, but it was really Kevin Nash and Scott Hall who helped Dallas become a huge fan favourite in World Championship Wrestling. Dallas became the People's Champion while working in Atlanta. He had a heel turn in WCW that I didn't think much of, but he was reverted back to a babyface when the New Blood storyline happened. And when WCW closed their doors, Diamond Dallas Page was remembered as one of the guys who made a difference during the 83-week win streak. He was very popular during Nitro's glory days, and he's one of those guys that come to mind when thinking about that era of World Championship Wrestling. Page ends up joining the WWF after the buyout, maybe foolishly giving up guaranteed Turner money just to try and make a name for himself in a new company. And the geniuses at the WWF decided to make Dallas a stalker who was obsessed with The Undertaker's wife Sarah. It was bad. I don't need to harp on about Vince McMahon wanting to make WCW guys look second rate, but you're only hurting the company and the talent in question by doing stuff like this. I'm not even saying Dallas couldn't have came in as a bad guy, but the stalker thing just did not gel with Dallas's character at all. At the time too, he was still married to the 10 out of 10 Kimberly, so why he would need to stalk another man's woman was just stupid. Not only
Yeah, this was a terrible way. Vince, I don't even gotta say it. I just gotta find where it's at. I just gotta find where it's at, bro. See, when it comes to Vince, it's only one way to describe him at certain times. This one right here.
1, 2, 3. Outstanding. Yeah, you knock me out. Excited. Make me
Listen, when it comes to this was a terrible way to introduce DDP. DDP could have been treated so better than this, bro. This was terrible.
1, 2, 3. Outstanding.
I'm just saying.
Did The Undertaker beat DDP up on TV? He was also beaten up by Sarah. And the thing is, practically anyone who knew anything about wrestling knew who DDP was and what he accomplished elsewhere. No one bought into this. It was a poor way to bring Dallas in. And the whole thing was dropped once Undertaker and Mrs. Undertaker embarrassed Dallas on TV. DDP pitched a People's Champion versus People's Champion storyline where he'd come in and feud with The Rock. McMahon thought the stalker thing would suit Dallas more, and DDP felt like he couldn't say no as he was so new to the company. Page recently stated that he wished he had it in him to say no, and he himself understands that agreeing to this storyline was a mistake, and it ended up serving as a reminder for all those other WCW guys who were considering WWF employment at the time. No one was safe from McMahon's stupid ideas. Steve Austin had to take time away from TV, and to write him off, a mystery man ran him down at Survivor Series 99.
The premise was good. The execution was terrible. That's what I'll say about this. The premise was really good. Running over Steve Austin, having him question who the fuck did it, even though we all knew Steve was injured and had to go away for a while. Still, the premise was good, but the execution, ass.
Whodunit mystery then begins as investigators were brought in to find a man behind the wheel, but even Columbo couldn't solve this one. While Austin was away from TV, the story was kind of forgotten about, only brought up again really when Stone Cold had a brief return at Backlash 2000. But later in the year, Commissioner Mick Foley wanted to solve the case once and for all, and it turned out to be Rikishi, a guy who was having a very good mid-card run in the WWF as a babyface. Rikishi was part of the extremely popular Too Cool stable, and it was Rikishi's teammate Scotty 2 Hotty who let it slip that Rikishi was in the building for Survivor Series without being booked in a match. As a matter of fact, he hadn't debuted yet, or returned yet, you know what I mean. Rikishi said he did it for The Rock, and his reasonings were, well, they were actually pretty sound. Rikishi and Rock were part of the same family, you know this, and Rikishi felt he needed to take Stone Cold out in order to give Rock an opportunity at superstardom. Guys like Buddy Rogers, Bob Backlund, Hulk Hogan and Steve Austin had always been pushed. He referred to these guys as the Great White Hope, while Samoan superstars from Rikishi and Rock's bloodline were always shoved to the side. It's actually not that bad, but I think others thought it was going to be someone else. It then got ridiculous when Triple H got involved in the angle, and Hunter revealed it was he who set up the whole thing at Survivor Series. Triple H was the mastermind behind it all, so you can hopefully see the irony here, another Samoan wrestler getting pushed to the side. What's so bad about this turn is that Rikishi was popular as a babyface. Fans went nuts for the stink face, and they got up and danced during Rikishi's post-match celebrations. In a way, the turn was similar to X-Pac's because there was way more value in keeping him as a babyface because fans wanted to cheer for the guy. A few months later, Rikishi would team up with a returning Haku, and after getting sidelined with an injury, the big man pretty much lost all momentum. The company tried to salvage something by turning him babyface again shortly after his return, but it just wasn't the same. In the end, the heel turn is mostly remembered as a meme now. I did it for The Rock. So between this line and Rikishi falling off Hell in a Cell, there's nothing remotely memorable about Rikishi turning to the dark side. Jim Ross's 1996 heel turn was
It's understandable, but nobody was gonna boo Jim Ross. Everybody loved Jim Ross. Wasn't nobody gonna boo this man.
just bizarre. It began with Jim feeling that Vince McMahon was screwing him around when other people were given play-by-play duties on Monday nights. And so to make a statement, JR said he was going to do something that McMahon nor anyone else could do in the WWF. He was going to bring back Razor Ramon in Diesel. This sounded preposterous, seeing as Scott Hall and Kevin Nash were doing big things in WCW as part of the New World Order group, but Ross promised everyone, including Vince McMahon, that Razor and Diesel were coming back to the WWF. It came time for Ross to deliver on his promise, and before he introduced Razor Ramon, he cut a scathing promo on McMahon and the WWF. He talked about his Bell's palsy and how the WWF didn't care. He talked about how the company felt embarrassed by him, yet he only wanted to show up and do his work. And it all felt like a huge disconnect, because when Jim was calling matches at the commentary table, he was still professional, but yet here he was having a total meltdown on WWF Raw while bringing up a lot of real personal and professional issues. Things would get even worse when Ross didn't deliver on his promise, and instead he brought out a Razor Ramon lookalike, and soon afterwards, a Diesel lookalike was also revealed. Where did this all go? Absolutely nowhere. Ross was put back on commentary, where he would continue to get screwed around with, most notably at In Your House Buried Alive. JR's headset wouldn't work correctly, he blamed it on Vince McMahon, and so JR promised to bring Bret Hart back to the WWF, though luckily Jim lived up to his word this time, and it wasn't a fake hitman who came back to the company. Funnily enough, the introduction of the fake Razor and Diesel actually benefited Kevin Nash and Scott Scott Hall. According to Kevin Nash, WCW thought he and Scott really were going back to the WWF. They hadn't signed their full Atlanta contracts yet and had been working on a deal memo, so technically they could have jumped back to the WWF if they really wanted to. So WCW got the Outsiders to finally sign their real contracts after hearing of this Razor and Diesel return, and on top of that they were paid more money to speed up the process. It's actually unbelievable. Did the WWF learn from this mistake? No, because they tried to turn Ross heel again when Steve Williams joined the company. Ross had been hyping up Williams to all the boys in the back, saying he was going to win the ill-fated Brawl for All shoot fight tournament in the WWF and kick everyone's asses. Dr. Death ended up getting knocked out by eventual winner Bart Gunn, and according to Bob Holly, the boys took great delight in rubbing it in Ross's face. It's not that people disliked Jim or Williams, but the amount of gloating Ross was doing backstage, apparently before this knockout, got on a lot of people's nerves. Jim would then, unfortunately, suffer another Bell's palsy attack at the end of 1998, and when he came back, he turned heel again by saying Michael Cole stole his job and the WWF didn't want someone with JR's condition calling matches from the commentary desk. Ross aligned himself with Williams as a sort of manager. The best thing that came out of this was Jim setting up his very own commentary table because he felt he was the best play-by-play guy in the company. But
as
here's
he
the thing.
was.
Jim actually was the best play-by-play guy in the company.
He was,
Steve Williams'
still
run
is.
came to a screeching halt. His time in the WWF had been a total failure, and Jim resumed his commentary duties again as if nothing had ever happened. Ross has stated multiple times that McMahon liked to mess him around quite a lot, and that makes sense when you watch all this back. Eugene's,
This never made any sense. Bruh. The Eugene character was barely even good enough to even be considered something. The only reason why it was over because people were weird. I didn't really like Eugene at all. I thought Eugene character was terrible. Terrible. I never liked this at all. Shit was ass. I just gotta call it for what it is. It's
Why?
shit was trash, bro. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a no for me. Sorry. It's a no for me. I can't do it.
Eugene's one of those characters that a lot of people don't talk about, and the ones that do seem to have a very strong opinion on him. There's no middle ground when it comes to Eugene, and fans seem to feel very strongly about the gimmick one way or another. Whatever the case, the Eugene character had learning difficulties or slow development, and the WWF mainly presented Eugene as a comedy character, one who could actually go in the ring when necessary. On the November 6th, 2006 episode of Raw, Eugene and Hacksaw Jim Duggan lost the match against the Spirit Squad, and it looked like Eugene was trying to understand why his team lost. He would end up embracing Jim Duggan, all seemed okay, and then Eugene snapped and he went on a rampage. He destroyed Jim with Jim's own 2x4 while Hacksaw pulled off some of those legendary faces of his. Eugene screamed as the attack continued. It looked like he had lost his mind as he headed back up the ramp. And the WWE had just put themselves in a position where the guy they presented as a likeable wrestler with learning difficulties was now evil and bad. The following week, he tried to claim a bounty on DX, but he had no luck. He was made to look silly just 1 week after the turn. And then, the week after that, he came out for a match against Hacksaw Jim Duggan. As the match progressed, Eugene got more and more vicious. The commentators were even taken back with how violent Eugene had become. And after winning the match, Eugene grabbed the microphone where he told fans to stop being mean to him and stop laughing at him. This, naturally, was followed by fans actually laughing at him. Eugene said that he was special over and over again before leaving the ring, and again he screamed at the top of his lungs when heading back up the ramp. On the December 4th, 2006 episode of Raw, Val Venus brought some women into the ring and the girls shared a kiss. Don't ask. And so Eugene came down to the ring and he said he too wanted a kiss because he's special. The women weren't interested, and so the WWE had Eugene try to force himself on one of these girls while shouting he's special over and over again. You can see the problem here, can't you? Venus pulled Eugene away, Eugene attacked Val, the crowd sat in stunned silence, and clearly the WWE got a lot of negative feedback here because the storyline was completely dropped. He was stuck in a battle royal on the December 18th episode of Raw, but after this he was quietly moved to Sunday Night Heat and the whole thing was forgotten about. When Eugene re-emerged on Monday Night Raw, he was once again a babyface. And the next notable thing that happened to Eugene was Vince McMahon shaving his head on the March 19th, 2007 episode of Raw. An absolute disaster of a heel turn right here, and I can't think of a way that the WWE could have turned Eugene without it causing backlash. People have mentioned that he could have turned by revealing he faked it all along and he was actually a very smart individual, but I also think that would have been too problematic. Many of you brought up Tatanka, and while I won't have a terrible lot to say about him, I do agree that his heel turn was extremely short-sighted and it effectively ruined
This
his
before my
WWE.
time.
Tatanka suspected that Lex Luger had sold out and joined a $1 million corporation. Fans were kept in the dark about this too, and there was a possibility that Lex actually did turn bad, but of course Luger denied it. A match was set up between Tatanka and Luger at SummerSlam 94, and it was revealed that Tatanka was actually the turncoat, and it was actually Tatanka who had sold out to Ted DiBiase. What made this one bad was the fact that Tatanka had been a reliable babyface up until this point, and while he certainly wasn't in any WWF title talks, he was still getting good reactions from the audience. And also, after the heel turn, Tatanka totally floundered in the WWF, and he became just another member of the $1 Million Corporation, a faction that McMahon pushed pretty hard for a while, yet they left no lasting legacy on the company at all. There's rumours circulating about why Tatanka turned heel. He himself said that Barry Windham was supposed to arrive at the WWF and Windham would form a tag team with IRS to create a New Money Inc. This New Money Inc. would feud with Luger and Tatanka, but Windham got injured and the deal was off the table. The decision was then made to run with a Lex versus Tatanka storyline. Whether this is true or not, I don't know. I also read somewhere that McMahon booked this storyline as an analogy for his own steroid trial, showing how easily Mr. Made in America Lex Luger was framed was supposed to mirror how McMahon could also be easily framed, but again, take that with a pinch of salt. It does actually sound like something Vince would do though, and it's also kind of funny to think he had used someone as juiced up as Lex as a way to prove his innocence. Whatever the case, Tatanka didn't recover, and many people have stated that Lex should have been the one who turned heel. I do agree with this to a certain extent, but I would have kept an evil Lex Luger as far away as possible from the $1 Million Corporation. I am not going to.
Come on, dog. Come on, man. Come on, dog. What heel turn? This nigga's never fully anything. This nigga is
Cut that bitch off! Next caller!
I'm so sick of these people. You know, oh! Hear me and hear me good, nigga. I'm here to double down. That shit is a 2-pack of ass. The fuck are you talking about? That shit stinks.
John in Tennessee, go ahead. What you want to say?
That shit is fucking trash, dog. Get the fuck off the airwaves.
Oh, come on, man.
Why? Because fuck them, that's why.
Into detail at all with this one because I'd be here all day. But the name Big Show is synonymous with the word heel turn because the guy turned heel so many times that it became a joke. The first time the Giant turned heel in WCW to join the NWO, I thought that was pulled off just fine. And then it was all downhill from here. Paul White's such a big imposing figure that it made sense to put him in typical David versus Goliath situations, but the fact they made this guy flip-flop so many times seriously damaged his overall legacy in the WWE. It's probably what he's most remembered for. One day I will break down each and every one of the Big Show's heel turns, but he also does deserve a spot on this video. I don't want to point out one particular turn right here because I need to watch them all again to choose which I thought was the worst, but that's going to be a project in itself, unfortunately.
this was terrible.
I thought the WWE initially pulled off Dean Ambrose's heel turn very well, but what followed was truly baffling. Really bad stuff here that even Moxley called out after leaving the company. The turn itself was good. Dean attacked his old Shield teammate Seth Rollins, and the manner in which he attacked him showed a different side to his character, as if he was unsure if he was actually doing the right thing and showing some hesitation as he went back to the dark side. Rollins played it well too. Seth kinda let Dean get his aggressions out on him and he tried to tell him it's okay while the beatdown happened. And that's because earlier in the evening, Roman Reigns announced to the world that his leukemia had returned, and the idea here was that Dean was probably overcome with emotions and he didn't know how to handle it. But the weeks progressed and things would get worse and worse. First of all, fans had to wait a total of 3 weeks before learning exactly why Dean did what he did. He teased an explanation, but he didn't say anything. And then, on the 12th of November 2018 episode of Raw, Dean said he's been the same guy he's always been. Seth Rollins was too self-absorbed to notice what was going on around him. So the explanation is, well, there is no explanation. The Shield made Dean weak, and that's it. Ambrose set fire to his Shield vest. He began a weird heel run where he didn't seem to know where his character was supposed to go. The WWE had a fantastic match lined up here when Dean would face Seth, and this should have been a huge deal for the company considering the history of the Shield. And although there was nothing necessarily wrong with the match they had at TLC 2018, it just didn't live up to expectations at all. It looked like there was supposed to be more to this, especially after Dean's first attack on Seth. There was an opportunity to tell a story that had a bit of nuance, and they could have even let this one build all the way to WrestleMania, but they dropped the ball. Dean was getting vaccines to protect him from the WWE universe. He was running around wearing a gas mask. Stupid stuff. And to just backtrack a little too, Dean also cut a promo where he said the Shield had to pay for their crimes. He said Roman was going to answer to the man upstairs for his time in the Shield, and he called Roman's leukemia karma. And fuck, yeah, heel heat's good and all, but this kind of stuff is risky and it's low. The WWE has no issues bringing this kind of stuff into storylines, of course, but this time it was very costly. Dean didn't like it. He actually hated all the creative that was presented to him during this turn, and he decided to leave the company based on the poor ideas WWE had for him as a villain. This one has people split, and I totally...
It's mixed emotions about this, because on one end, the heel turn, it wasn't likable at first, but as time went on, you started to understand the character more. But the problem was nobody was going to boo this man. This man was white hot. White hot. Red, not red hot, white hot. That's hot. Okay? This man was hot. Like if you touch him, you would disintegrate into ashes hot. So he was never going to get booed. It was never going to get over. The only way you can get Steve Austin over as a heel, shit, you had to find somebody that's just as super likable as he is and have him beat the shit out of him every single week for no reason. That would probably be the only way. And even then, he would probably still get cheered. This man was white hot. It's hard to boo Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's hard. So turning him heel, well, I understand that WWE was trying to do something different with his character. The character just wasn't stale. The people loved the character. Stone Cold was never stale. That's the crazy part. A heel turn only makes sense when the character is going stale. Stone Cold has never gone stale. His character has remained the same. There was nothing needed to change about his character. But Vince gonna be Vince.
Understand why. Two separate turns to look at here. The first one happened at Mania 17, and Austin himself said the turn was a mistake. Stone Cold went nose to nose with Vince McMahon throughout most of the Monday Night War, and this battle helped WWF turn the tide against WCW. Austin was a much-loved WWF superstar and the most popular guy on the roster, so when Austin joined forces with Mr. McMahon after beating The Rock at Mania 17, fans were a little miffed. Austin felt he had to turn heel in order to shake his character up a bit, but fans continued to cheer for Stone Cold after the turn because he was just way too popular. Stone Cold would do some pretty evil things during this initial run, from beating up JR and even attacking Lita, but it didn't matter, fans still loved him. Austin then began incorporating some comedy into his character by becoming a little whiny, and he developed a strange infatuation with Vince McMahon. And this didn't help either because, as WCW fans knew, Steve Austin could be pretty funny when working as a bad guy. He and Kurt Angle went through great lengths to try and become McMahon's favourite, and this is where I feel the heel turn was actually good. Austin being a bad guy gave fans some brilliant comedy-based promos, and so even though the turn...
Yeah, the invasion angle was good. That was a good way to have him as a heel. During the invasion angle, even though I still say Kurt Angle was the MVP of that whole invasion angle. Kurt Angle was the MVP, hands down. Kurt Angle was the MVP of that whole angle. But if we talking about Steve Austin having a heel turn during that time, that was perfectly fine. That was a perfectly fine time to do it, because you would actually boo Austin in that standpoint, because it's like, yo, you gonna let the WCW or ECW guys take over something that you built? That's crazy.
turn itself was seen as a long-term mistake, it still gave us some of Austin's best ever promo work. The invasion angle then began and Vince wanted the old Stone Cold back. Vince didn't want the guy who was kissing up to him anymore, or the guy who was pushing Kurt Angle around like Kurt was an annoying little brother. After a little convincing, fans did indeed get the old babyface Stone Cold back for a brief period of time, but then Stone Cold turned again when he joined the Alliance. Stone Cold tried to revert back into being a true heel by bullying his Alliance teammates around, but there's a disconnect here because the Alliance were also seen as the bad guys. Austin was being pretty vicious when it came to disciplining the Alliance, but who really cared about these guys? One night after the invasion storyline ended, Stone Cold was turned back to a babyface, and he stayed a good guy right up until his final match. It's a tough one really, because here you've got a bad guy that fans still cheered for, so in that respect it didn't work, but you've also got a heel cutting some very funny promos, and I'm in the camp that absolutely loves Stone Cold's mic work during this time period, so I can see both sides of the argument. Really, if I were able to change things, I wouldn't have turned to Austin, but I'd somehow find a way to tap into Austin's more humorous side somehow without turning him into a complete comedy character. Easier said than done though when you've got the WWF's ultimate badass. Use the comment section to tell me more bad WWE heel turns. Maybe you thought CM Punk's turn in 2012 wasn't necessary? How about The Godfather becoming the Good Father when fans were still buying tickets for the whole train? How about The Undertaker turning heel because Jim Ross wouldn't join the Vince McMahon Kiss My Ass Club? Let me know in the comments because there's always room for round 2. If you feel I've done enough to earn it, I'd greatly appreciate you hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. There's other videos on the channel covering bad WCW heel turns along with what I think are some of the best turns in wrestling history, so check those out too.
Alrighty, man, that's just going to about do it for this one. I will see you all in the next videos. Some of these heel turns were very quick. Big Show, I wouldn't even count that one. It's too many heel turns for it to even be count. But anyway, so that's just going to about do it for this one. I will see you all in the next video. Till then, peace out.